All right, let's rock. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Combat Life. Today is a rather special episode. My guest, I met this man last at the NCAA tournament in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the national championships, Division I wrestling, and this man was gracious enough to give me his book. He's written a book, and I'm going to let him tell you, but this guy got caught with addiction. It set him back so hard he ended up homeless. Decided in his late 30s to go back to college and make a run for a national championship in wrestling. And he did just that. This man's the author of the book, Be a Champion in Life. It's an Emmy-winning story on ESPN. I give you the 2016 National Wrestling Champion, Richard Jensen. How are you, sir?
Awesome. Nice intro, dude. I feel like I should come running out with a cape on, circling the mat with the lights down dim and the big halo up there.
With the music blaring.
Yeah, with some 80s Rocky music, Man, that's a nice intro, man. I appreciate it. You know what? I couldn't be more gifted today to be able to do what we do. Take such a negative, corrosive, destructive story and turn it into something that really has impacted people, and it's like I get gifted this opportunity to be able to share some hope, and so
100%.
I just count my blessings every day to be able to do some of the work that we do,
Well,
so
absolutely. So
yeah,
you were super kind and generous at the tournament, man. And when you gave me the book, I read it, and it was just mind blowing. I was like, this is an unbelievable story. Again, it's called Be a Champion in Life. It's a true comeback story. You mentioned Rocky, and you're dead on. Like, this isn't, but it's not a script. It's not a movie. It's real life, and it's your story. So I read it. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your story and the book, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling saved my life. It gave me an avenue and a place to really find myself after years of struggle. I mean, I was a wrestler back in high school. I mean, that's what kept me grounded and focused and disciplined and moving forward, and, chasing goals and finishing school. I think, being in combat sports and being in hand-to-hand combat and the intensity and it was just a great sport for me, and honestly, I was a 500 wrestler all through my high school career. I wasn't a great wrestler, I wasn't at the top of the podium. I wasn't winning the big tournaments and matches, but what it did for my life was bigger than wrestling. It gave me that structure, that guidance, and that discipline and mentorship that I needed, to help me kind of carve through school. But unfortunately, once school was out, I graduated. I had an opportunity to go to college, and I experimented with drugs for the very first time. And, at that point in my life, once I started using drugs, I just couldn't stop. And it took me down a long, dark road for about 20 years. In and out of jail, in and out of prison, fighting to get sober, fighting to find myself in that process. And, I lost myself for a lot of years. And as you said, I found myself at a homeless shelter in 2003, 34 years old, trying to figure out what happened to my life. How did that happen? How did this kid with aspirations and goals and dreams and direction end up here? And, didn't know what to do, but I knew I wanted something different. And, it took me to that very, very low place. And it's not, everybody takes their lumps in tough times, and addiction's a gorilla. It's a monster. And, what I realized is that I couldn't use anymore. I didn't know if I was going to be able to, but I knew that drugs and alcohol were destroying everything I ever wanted in my life. And it separated me from my family. It drove a wedge between my kids and myself. And I knew that my pathway, the way I was conducting myself, was going to take me to prison for a long time, maybe death. But more importantly, it was going to divide myself from the people that I loved. And it had done that, and it was going to continue to do it.
Wow.
So I'm sitting at a homeless shelter at 34 years old, trying to figure out what happened. And in my book, I detail the 5 key things that happened in a short period of time in my life that really kind of gave me perspective, and it gave me the motivation I needed to try to do, to try to make change, to try to find a better way to live. I didn't know I'd be here doing what I'm doing and everything that happened, but I knew that I wanted to try to do something different. And, sitting at that shelter after I got released from prison, I went hunting for treatment. I went hunting for AA, NA, 12-step, anything that I could find that was going to help give me that focus and direction I needed and help me stay sober. Because I knew that if I could just stay sober, my life would get a little better. I knew that once I could put that at bay and I could step away from that, things would get a little better. I didn't know how good, but I just knew that it'd get better. And, I found a treatment program. I found a mentorship. I found 12-step, and I found a sober community to learn from. And I was able to stay sober for a few years, Karen. And then I realized there was a little void still inside of me. I was able to stay sober, but I wanted to compete again, and I wanted to be part of the team again. And I knew that wrestling would be that key recipe for me. And so I decided to go out for the wrestling team at 37 years old with about 5 years sober,
Wow. 37. Back on the team.
37, 10 years older than the coaches, 20 years older than the athletes. And I decided, you know what? I'm going out for the wrestling team again, and everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was nuts. Everybody thought it was way too late for that. You've been removed from the sport 20 years. And you look at my history and the way I was conducting myself, like, you're going to make it a week or two and you'll fizzle out, and,
yeah.
And, it was bigger than wrestling, though. What people didn't realize is I knew that would be a recipe to help me find a better way. I knew that the value that wrestling would bring into my life, it would give me give me some hope. And I knew that hanging around with like-minded people, it was going to help me navigate through a tough time. Trying to transition from a drug addict, ex-convict, to a sober, trying to be a man of integrity and a good father again, and family man, and just a good person again, and make good choices. And I knew that wrestling, there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life over the years that have helped me get where I'm at. But, when I'm in a position, I was in a position in my life of hopelessness, and I was in a position of, I'd made a lot of mistakes, and, I was trying really, really deep down. I wanted to do something good. I wanted to do something better. And, where the rest of the world kind of shuns you for being a deadbeat father, a convict, a drug addict, these stains on the earth, and the one key thing was when I entered that when I stepped in that wrestling room, the wrestling team and the wrestling community embraced me. They took me in with open arms, and they embraced me and took me in, and I needed that community. I needed that reassurance that it was going to be okay. I needed that motivation to try to find myself so I could become that guy that I always wanted to be, and stepping back on the wrestling mat, it was like, it's great to win matches, but I was there for a whole nother purpose, man. And when you have purpose and drive and direction, and what you're doing there, you're gonna make a splash.
Yeah, and you did.
I was trying to save my life. Really, what it came down to. And the great part of the story is that everybody, the over-under was I was going to make it a week or two, and then I was going to be done. This old guy, what's he doing here? He's a weirdo. He's as old as my dad. And fun and all that. And what happened? You got this 38-year-old guy coming back to college, joining the wrestling team, and within a few weeks, some magic started happening in that wrestling room. This old guy was here for a reason. He brings life experience to the room, not the most technical, not the most athletic, pretty clumsy and lost a lot of matches that comeback year, but I brought some life experience in there, showed up early, stayed late, and just pushed myself to become the best version of myself I could in that wrestling room,
It's incredible.
And as you read, I lost all my matches but one.
Yeah.
Back here,
Yeah. And you didn't quit. You kept going.
That's the key. Life's going to come at you. There's times in your life where you're going to be tested and challenged. And, if you can get up and rise to the challenge, you're going to find yourself in a better place. I remember getting up and having a hard time looking in the mirror in the morning. I remember having a hard time looking at my teammates. I'm taking losses. I'm getting beat up. I'm tore up, and I just kept digging deep and getting up and showing up and kept moving and kept pushing and kept getting a little bit better, just a little bit, And what I found was I had some advantages and some strengths that once I could figure out how to implement them and use them, I wasn't going to be the real low signal, the real technical guy. I'm going to use my strength, my age, my life experience, my conditioning, and so at the end of that first season, it would have been okay to call it quits, and it would have still been okay,
Yeah.
But as you read, I went home and moved into a garage, into a sober house up outside of town, and I started training. And so I spent 3 months during the summer training and eating right, and I lost 15 pounds and got into the best conditioning I could because I wasn't going to be the tech. I'm going to be in the best. I want a third round. I want to keep wrestling you,
Yeah.
And that was going to be my advantage. And so I did that. I got chills talking about it, Curran. I still get chills talking. I mean,
I have no doubt. You guys got to read this. Read this book. It's an unbelievable story.
And I got the best shape of my life. I was eating right. I was down 15 pounds. I came in at the next weight class down at weight first day of practice. So I didn't have to cut any weight. I just got to focus on just getting better and being stronger and staying mentally focused, mentally tough. That was one of the biggest things I had going for me. I'd been through so many wars in my life. I've been through so much. You weren't going to break me on the mat. Like I'm solid, mentally focused and tough, you might beat me up for a few rounds, but I'm going to finish strong. And luckily I ended up coming in shape. I ended up, coaches were like, what happened over the summer? All of a sudden I'm not last running the sprints. I'm first, I'm not, I'm winning. And I started winning matches right off the bat, Curran, and it was so exciting, man, to come in to the first tournament of the second year. I won like 4 matches that day, and it was more than I won the whole season before. And everybody's just, all the team and coaches are just going, what happened to Rich over the summer? This old guy's coming back with a vengeance, and I was on a mission, it was like I was trying to push myself and take advantage of this moment. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. 38 years old, everything I've been through, I get an opportunity to go to college and compete on the college team and compete for, to be the best. Like, it's a dream for me, something I dreamed about for years, wishing I could be in school and be a wrestler again. And I'm just in this terrible lifestyle, dreaming about being there. And now I'm here,
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I won. I ended up winning through the season, man. I ended up taking second in the whole Region 18. I qualified for nationals, went off to nationals to compete. I won my first match at nationals, moved forward, and then I lost to a guy that I beat 4 times that year. It's still a little salty, but anyway, I think 38 junior college national tournament. I'm probably one of the oldest that ever competed there. And then I was fortunate enough. I got I graduated. I won some matches. They named the Richard Jensen Inspirational Award after me, and they dedicated each year. And what happened is that whole team came together through our experience that couple years, and everybody became a better athlete and a better person. And I write about how I thought, how much the team did for me. And I come to find out when it was all said and done, there was so much that I did for these young athletes, and helping them get where they wanted to be in that process,
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt.
And then I was still healthy. My life was getting better. I was becoming a good father. I was connected with my kids. And so really the win was happening away from the wrestling. The win was happening in my personal life. And by chasing that national title, I was just doing the right thing, eating right, living right, and building relationships with people that I love. And that was really what it came down to in the end. I found out about the Masters. I got to compete for another 9 years after that with the Masters, and won a few stop signs and won a national title finally in 2016. So wrestling's been the key recipe for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it looked like without it, but I do know that with it, I'm a better person, and I get to do the work that I do. It's just restructuring my life around the sport, becoming an athlete, coach, mentor, in that world, has really, I feel truly blessed, So anyway, I got 20 years sober now. It's been a long time since I've had a drink, and we talk about wrestling, and I'm really fortunate to get some airtime on ESPN and Channel 2, some, a little bit of notoriety with the story and being a wrestler. And really it's about what we're doing now with the story, that really matters. And that's changing young kids' lives, talking about some of these struggles that I went through, and talking about the dangers of addiction, and talking about the importance of making good, positive choices, and the importance of just chasing your dreams and goals and aspirations, because my goals seemed insurmountable. Like the dreams I had were so big, like people couldn't imagine. But I got a vision board. I'm like, if I even come up short, I'm still going to have a way better life than I had before.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have to reach the mark. It's going to be way better still.
So you've been traveling around the country. You're available for speaking engagements. You've talked to thousands of kids. What is your overall, and you did name a few of them, but what is your overall mission with these kids when you speak to them?
Yeah. So, it's a tough conversation. Let's just say that, because I'm very vulnerable and honest with my life story. It's been public. I get very vulnerable. I talk about the demise I was in. I talk about the desperation and the hopelessness, and how addiction took me down a path that I'm really fortunate to be able to come back from,
Mm-hmm.
and then I talk a lot about the successes through being a man of integrity, by doing what you say you're going to do, and staying sober no matter what, and the things that you have the ability to accomplish, even though it may seem tough, and you may be in a storm in your life, and you may be struggling. Like, imagine if the Rich Jensen story, what we've done, imagine what you can do if you don't go through all the demise that we went through,
Right.
It's just really important. It's an important conversation with these kids. They're not talking about it enough in school. People don't know what to say about drugs. I mean, if you don't know anything about it, what are you going to say to your kids,
Yeah, right.
And so you have a guy that's been through it, that's experienced it, that came out the other side, that has a real clear vision of what it looked like, and is willing to talk about it. So a lot of schools are willing to talk about it, and there's a lot of schools that aren't. But
Right.
today, let's be honest, 20 years ago, you mess your life up. That drugs, you just mess your life up. You can fix it and all that. Today, if you look at the statistics today, and you look at addiction today, we should be more worried about kids coming up dead today. So drugs have changed a lot in 2 decades. Back then you mess it up. Today you get the wrong batch and you're dead. And these kids need to understand that. I need to talk about those things, because somebody's got to be willing to do it. And that's me. I'm very passionate about it. I'm very aware of what staying drug and alcohol free has done for my life. And so, I might as well open up about it. And hopefully in the process, we change some kids' lives, and we have. I've been traveling since 2009, right after the ESPN documentary, and I still get letters and follow-ups from kids that I spoke to 10, 15 years ago, and parents, like kids coming home after school and they can't quit talking about Rich Jensen. And they had to reach out and say, man, I thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for impacting my kid. Thank you for having that conversation with them, because it is a hard conversation. And I think it needs to come from somebody who's experienced it to really make the highest level impact,
Absolutely.
And so that's what we do. My wife and I created Be a Champion in Life, and we started traveling. And, pre-COVID, we were speaking to 30, 40,000 kids a year. And, COVID hit, it shut us down for a couple of years, and we relaunched last year, and we were fortunate enough to go on a national tour and make a comeback tour. So,
yes. Well,
and then we obviously added the best coaching and teaching tool on the planet.
Yes, no, sincerely, reading that it was motivating, it was inspirational, it was unlike anything I've ever read. You're a special human, my friend, and your strength, your courage, your vulnerability, we really need more of it in this world, quite frankly. Times are hard right now, and your mindset is just so rock solid. But I could talk with you for hours, and I had a few more questions left, but we are at the end of our session. I know. See, literally, I know, right?
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, if it sparks a little interest, they can find our website, they can find our book, they can dig in and learn a little bit more about our story, who we are.
My man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I can feel your passion. I feel like I got to leave right now and run a couple miles. Doing boatload of push-ups, jumping jacks. You got my blood going.
Good.
You got me going.
All right.
It is truly just a remarkable story all around. Ex-con, homeless, drug addiction, turning your life around to become a national champion. The book is amazing. I can't say it enough. You've got to check it out. But with that said, we have come to the end of this episode. I hope you all enjoy the holidays with your loved ones. Be safe, and we'll catch you next time. Later.